Hey there, welcome to another exciting episode of Design Lab with me, Adam, in which we look at art and graphic novels and stuff. Today, we're looking at Fat Cop, a Johnny Ryan graphic novel. I don't think I normally need to put any kind of warning or anything with these videos, but if you're offended at all or easily, if there's anything that needs a trigger warning, this is probably it, because Johnny Ryan is probably he goes out of his way to be as offensive and unpolitically correct as possible, and yeah, I think he's not for everybody. This was a mixed bag for me. I haven't read Johnny Ryan in a while, and so yeah, let's just get started with it. I have no idea what I even have to say about it. There's parts of it that I really liked, and there's parts of it that I were mixed. We'll see. So it is in black and white, unlike the cover. I would love to see. I don't know if he's done working completely in color. I think most of his work is in black and white, which is interesting. It gives it kind of a look like. I think I see a lot of like Charles Addams, the Addams Family cartoonist. I see a lot of that in his stuff, but basically, the characters are wonderful in this. And throughout this, like, there's this cop whose name is all just Fat Cop. That's all we know about him. It's so there's so much grossness and violation and murder and blood and guts and just like so much disgusting scenes and stuff that it's just so over the top and relentless. Every single page, basically, we're just presented with these horrible people and horror, and so this is not for everybody. But if you take it with a certain level of like silliness and glee, I think there is something that I like about it, and I couldn't read this every day, that's for sure. But I don't know, I did enjoy it, and there's just so much ridiculous stuff in it, so much the level of fantasy and incorporating all these. So he does use these heavily, like, let's see, these are 12 panel pages, and he just does a lot in every page. And it's very simple stuff. Like, I know there's a book of his collected, like, one panel cartoons that he does, like, on Instagram and things like that. I haven't been able to see that book yet, but it's such a good cross-section of America, I think, in 2024, and how everything works. Up there with I've talked about Simon Hanselman and his comics in a similar vein. I think Johnny Ryan, though, is American, whereas Simon Hanselman is from Australia or Tasmania, I can't remember. And anyways, so either way, it's like the most kind of like base level of America, like 7-Elevens and the most ridiculous stuff like that. So Fat Cop is sort of like an anti-hero, and you're kind of unclear what he's wishing for, where he's going with this. And we get some conflict pretty early on, in which Fat Cop has a new partner, kind of cop partner conflict stuff. That's anyways, it goes along. Like I said, I'm not sure how much I have to add on this. It starts to descend. There's a lot of. It's interesting how many like real brands and real companies he uses in his comics, and I think in that sense. Sorry, my chin keeps itching. I need a shave. Maybe that's why I feel like it's such a good kind of image of America, because he uses real brands, real companies, real stores, and so that just gives it a more authentic feel than other comics that use generic companies and stuff. So he has a new partner. There's so much ridiculous stuff. Yeah, a lot of sex, violence, not for everybody. And then it kind of took a twist, though, when it started introducing these kind of fantastic elements and goes into this almost like Pizzagate type conspiracy that involves like this basement in a Trader Joe's. So it's almost, I can't remember the details of Pizzagate exactly, but from my memory, it's very similar. And then he incorporates, social media commentary and police and yeah. Who is Johnny Ryan's audience? I'm guessing mostly male. Why did I say it like that? Mostly male, and probably maybe in their like 20s and 30s. I'm guessing. I really have no idea though. I mean, are there like teenagers and kids reading this? Perhaps. And what do they think of it? So yeah, I'd be fascinated to know about John. There's some strange like fantasy sequences in here that you really like wonder is like, where is this happening? Is this just in a character's head? Like this garbage woman kind of manifests itself and says, what does she say? She says, "Fuck me, fat cop." And his response is, okay. And such weird stuff. He does wonderful action sequences because he shows like every little detail of the process of what happens, and not a lot of splash pages, just very simple stuff. I wouldn't say like he's not really using any elaborate architecture, not using any nothing too remarkable in the character designs, pretty simplistic, but it's just like it's like so stripped down, and that allows him to focus on just the actions. I haven't seen an interview with Johnny Ryan. I'd be fascinated to see that, because he's one of those guys that from certain angles you read his stuff and you're like, who is this guy? Yeah, so this is where he descends into this like Pizzagate conspiracy beneath the Trader Joe's, and it just like folds in all these modern pop culture trash elements in a way that I found funny. But like I said, I couldn't read this relentlessly. I tried reading his other graphic novel. It's like 5 or 6 parts, Prison Pit, and I could only read like the first one or so, and then that didn't interest me as much because there was no real American culture. It was just like this alien planet with so it was kind of too stripped down. Whereas this I like because there's relentless barrage of pop culture from America. And so this is an interesting page. No dialogue or anything, and 4 panels essentially the same of just a floating image of what's happening. This kind of unrelated, but yesterday I just heard about the death of Ed Piskor, who if you don't know, he was a cartoonist, and he did like Hip Hop Family Tree and what else? Red Room. I've never really got into his stuff, but I would occasionally just take a look at the channel they had on YouTube, Cartoonist Kayfabe, in which they did something like this. They would talk about comics and show stuff, and it was kind of interesting. But I didn't watch it regularly, but I was thinking about it yesterday. I'm like, oh, what's that channel up to? And then I learned that he had killed himself in April, which really surprised me because I don't know I didn't research all the details of it, but I just found it fascinating that he left this long suicide note, and I guess there was accusations, and I don't know all the details, and I'm not going to research all the details, but it's just fascinating. Like I found it a very fascinating kind of circumstance. Like I would never have guessed that he would kill himself. Like he seems like not the type of person that would do that at all, and the circumstances that led to it. Anyways, what's the relevance to this? His publisher is the same publisher as Johnny Ryan, so Fantagraphics. But it was just kind of fascinating to read the suicide note and the kind of the finance. He goes into financial details about his projects and so on. So like things like that are fascinating. So Fat Cop is a total perv and like abusive, but then he also gets taken advantage of. He sticks his hand in this woman's vagina, and he finds written in there, ACAB, all cops are bastards. It's just these kind of weird horrific twists, or just kind of like horror movie, all kinds of just weird stuff going on. And like sometimes you root for fat cop, sometimes you're like, fat cop, you're horrible. And this book though is a good example of, for me, like I could not anticipate where this was going at all. And in a sense, I kind of like that, because if you can not anticipate where a book's going, especially kind of a darkly humorous book like this, in which your expectations about what is good and evil are constantly being twisted. And he also had this wonderful, like Fat Cop is in the hospital watching TV, or no, he's in a hotel watching TV, and for just like 2 pages he goes into like the TV show, and it's like these characters, you don't really know who they are exactly, and just I thought those were the most interesting pages in the book, in which we just have these weird tangents, like, or when he shows these rats in the alley having sex, it's like, where does this come from and where is this going? I talked in a recent review of that Alan Moore novel about how I read part of it completely flat, and then the rest of it I read while it was high, and it was a totally different experience. Unfortunately, I read this comic completely without any marijuana, but I would love to have read it with marijuana. It would have just been a completely different experience. And yeah, so relentlessly violent, every page. And then, oh, you know what? I talked about how there wasn't, for the most part, it's just like 12 panel pages. I've been reading a lot of Steve Ditko. He does a lot of, I think, 9 panel pages. But then right here near the end, it's like Johnny Ryan kind of got tired of that and says, like, you know what, let's just throw on a big splash page. And it just totally changes the tempo of the book, because we already got like a brief glimpse at this character, but kind of forces you to pause when all of a sudden this page looks, I've talked about Charles Burns recently, and Charles Burns has a few books, I think, recently that I haven't had a chance to see. I think one's Final Cut, and I would love to get my hands on a copy of that and talk about it, because this to me looks very Charles Burns. And then we get another full page spread. I also recently looked at the books of Eric Haven, the comics, and this looks very much like that to me. Yeah, but look, they're in a Trader Joe's, and he has to show like all the different types of food. Honey walnut shrimp. I don't know if that doesn't seem like a real product, but these other ones could easily be real products. Organic arugula I've bought at Trader Joe's numerous times. So Fat Cop delves into this Pizzagate type conspiracy, and then just weird things, like they're in the store and he says, why don't you drink, and I know this is a real brand, I think, of this. I used to buy this yerba mate tea sometimes. It's just like weird, like why, I mean, it's obviously not a product placement. I'm pretty sure Trader Joe's or Guayake is not promoting this, but he's just including it. And in some ways I feel like this would be fascinating as a movie, as like a weird, yeah, I could see this as a movie, and I don't know if that's ever going to happen. But so this, even though it's black and white, you get these shades of, this is what makes me, why it reminds me of Charles Addams, because I feel like it looks almost like watercolor with black and white, which is kind of a fascinating technique that you don't see very often. Most writers or most artists would go with color, or just like a more black white without the shades of gray, but he does some different things. Yeah, so if you want to know all the details behind this conspiracy and how it ends, pick up the comic. I did like it. It's not for everybody. Well, it's extremely violent, extremely graphic, but also funny in its own way. And Oh, so here's another great example of these kind of detours. When Fat Cop's in the hospital, wrapped up like a mummy, the nurse turns on Family Feud. Do you like Family Feud? Let's watch Family Feud. And it's so, name a number most men exaggerate. The woman buzzes in. She says 69, and then we get this close up of Steve Harvey, and it's obviously Steve Harvey. And if you weren't sure it was Steve Harvey, he says it's Steve Harvey. So like this absolute use of realism rather than substitutes of like fantasy world in which it's different. No, this is our world, and yet we have these wonderful horrors and fantasies going on. So all the elements come together. We think these things are random, in which this janitor comes in, starts talking to him, but no, he's a relevant character from earlier in the story. I won't spoil who it is, but fascinating plot twist. And then again, these injections of realism. We get an Apple computer using Google to say how to give yourself an abortion, and then going to WebMD and having the instructions on how to give an abortion, which is pretty funny because obviously those instructions are not, I assume, on WebMD. Fascinating, bloody, horrific ending, and all the characters, all the twists come together. I thought it came together very well. Like a lot of the random elements that you thought were random are actually explained, and wonderful knitting together of all the elements with weird twists, and and so it goes. So that's Fat Cop, and there's a quote on the back from Sammy Harcum that pretty much encapsulates it. A psychotic and brilliant book, impossible to pigeonhole, always a step ahead of the reader. Its intellectual reach. I wouldn't normally think of Johnny Ryan as having intellectual reach, but there is like this element of, if you were like a 10-year-old reading this, I think you would have to like question how serious it is. Like it kind of forces its irony into your face so much that you can't take it seriously. It's like impossible. You have to, like, you may be, as a 10-year-old, you may be like kind of snapped out of your reality a little, but you also recognize that this is fantasy and you can't take it seriously. Its intellectual reach goes well beyond outrageousness and toward the agony of modern America, exactly. And its desire for self-destruction. Fat Cop is a murder mystery story and engined by pure id, crafted by a comics master. Absolutely. Right? Pure id, that's exactly what it is. It's just pure raging id and relentless America. This is, oh wait, was there more at the end? Hold on a sec. I think that was the end. Oh, yeah, this is whoever scanned it. All right, so Fat Cop, very memorable, very, I would like to read it again, but not right now. Like, I feel like maybe in 5 years, I would like to reread it. And it does make me want to read more of Johnny Ryan, because I think his strength is the relentless nature of the parody and the over-the-topness of it all. But in some ways, like if he used a little more restraint, I think he might be more effective. But obviously, that's not what he's going for. And I think I'm most curious about, like I said, that book of one-page cartoons. I feel like it's like a 500-page book. If you have, I also haven't read through all his Angry Youth comics, so there's plenty more to read by Johnny Ryan. So maybe I'll take a look again in the future. Anyways, that's it for today's episode of Design Lab, and I'm aiming for five episodes or 5 videos this month, and I think this is number 4, so I'm kind of on my way, and I think we can do it. Help me get to 5,000 subscribers. I think I need like 65 more if you're not subscribed, and we'll look at lots more comics together. Hopefully introduce you to some wonderful new artists and new comics and so on. So see you later.